folks, welcome back to PowerWash Simulator. Today I just wanted to do a little relaxing game. I didn't really feel too much into a, high pace, crap my pants kind of thing like in Dead Space. So I figured just running. I kind of started this already because I was kind of fiddly one night. Today I wanted to kind of go over the fun subject of how to formulate your plot. Remember last time I was kind of talking about, developing a little area, like a little region, right? So, this is going to sound so vague, but everybody's like style of storytelling is going to be different. But the core of what you want as a storyteller is what is the conflict like, and so what's your conflict, why, what moves it, what inhibits it, right? So like in my campaign, it's setting in Alexandria, and the whole goal is actually kind of funny enough, similar to campaign 3 in Critical Role, and that was not intentional. It just apparently, when you link the moon, apparently everyone had the same idea of like the moon has something going on. The bad guy that I have was trying to use again the Apogee Solstice. I wrote this a year ago. More than a year ago, a couple of years ago actually, man. I really moved fast, didn't it? And essentially what I had in my head was that it takes a lot of energy and power and things like that to make things happen. Any big event, there are safety and security protocols in place to make sure that any major problem, any major change to the cosmic order is prevented. Even in society, society sucks sometimes, but it makes an effort to preserve itself. And so with that comes people watching and people attempting to keep things as per the usual. And so with bad guys, they sometimes, depending on their personal methods, will either work within those confines or they will work around them. The other option is they go through them. Going through them oftentimes is the most noisy way, and it's effective. But the thing about people who want to change the cosmic order or the society status quo kind of thing, like, you have to think what's gonna last, So if you're a bandit who wants to take down like a local kingdom, going in and shooting up the place and whatever else is not really gonna do anything, because they're just gonna swat it down. They have the superior force. You have to be able to you're not gonna be able to go and tackle this massive power alone or with a smaller force unless you know how it works. Unless you go in really taking a look at its joints and taking it down in a slow way, or getting it to bow in a way that it thinks is beneficial to itself. So it depends on what you're going for, but if you're going for a taking over of said body, so for example, if you're doing something your big bad evil guy wants to take over a certain system, such as the government or an organization that the players are part of, you're going to need to slowly change the perception within that organization to either agree or bow to what your villain is asking for. The reason for that is every structure has a means to acquire power, whether it's voting, whether it's trial by combat to see who is worthy. All these things can be valid, but if you try to take that over in a way that is contrary to the system of which it operates, those who participate within that system are going to not accept it, or they're going to think whatever means that your person did was illegitimate, and they're not going to go along with it. So you have to move within those means and stay within the realities of which they operate. So I'll give an example of perhaps like a I didn't even notice that there. Perhaps like a Thieves Guild. Let's talk about like a small scale stuff so you can kind of see how it works. But in the Thieves Guild, let's say it's ran by a council of 3, right? So the council of 3, the reason why they run it that way is to tiebreaker things. So that way they have somebody who is, thinks, either they agree with one or they disagree with both, and it doesn't matter. There's always a tiebreaker. It may not work in practice, but we're just gonna talk about it. But the reason why is because in order to take over this guild, you would need to either rise to the ranks to be one of those 3. You would need to get everybody involved to no longer think that the system of 3 works, or you would need to somehow find a loophole, like find a piece of text or an idea within their own within their own ideals to get them to go, well, technically these folks don't have power here because this. So like I said, going through, which is kill them all, go around it, which is finding some, I guess like loophole or like a subtext or something like that kind of states otherwise, or you get people to no longer have faith in those institutions, and so that's kind of what you do in a big scale thing anyway. So like if your person who is your big bad evil guy or whatever, if it's on a grand scale, like world-wise, you're going to want to break down what they plan to do every step of the way. Like say they want to open up a portal to some place, to another plane. In order to do that, there are protections in place to make sure that doesn't happen. What do they have to do to make that happen? Work backwards is what I say. Work backwards from the biggest step that you could possibly have in doing that, and then damn it. Alright, we're just gonna use our big old long pipe. You're gonna want to move back, think about it backwards, not from the first step to the last step. The reason why I would say you don't want to do that is because if you work backwards and go from the biggest step to the smallest step, meaning macro to micro, if you know the last step, you know what you're working towards. You know what I mean? So like, if you're like wanting to accomplish this massive difficult project, you want to know well, what am I going for? Like, what are my barriers? What are my complications? What is the quickest way to get there? And if you can't, if you're unable to facilitate those means, you're not going to accomplish it, right? So, like, you need to have a step-by-step for your villain what to do. Same with your players. Like, it kind of helps to work backwards of like, well, in order for them to stop the villain, they would have to, same thing. If the villain is trying to open up this portal, they need to know the steps. So you would help the players by setting, you know, the plot tiles in front of them to go, okay, in order for you to disrupt this, you need to find out X, Y, and Z. In order to open that portal, they need to weaken the barriers between the realms. They need something to pierce the veil, essentially, and poke through. Once that veil is weakened, and once they do that, they need to also start changing the environment to kind of like pull pieces of the other realm here, so that way at the transition is easier. We're just throwing things out there. It's the same thing with any plot, is you just need to find out which steps have to be done in order to come on, it's like right there. No, not again. We're like right there on that chimney. See, this is why I don't do stuff like this in real life for my job. I break my knees or something, you know. Come on. I don't like the heights. Okay. And so, like, when you're working backwards, one thing you can do is just kind of look at, you know, plots in movies. We'll use Lion King. Everyone knows Lion King, right? So Scar wants to take over the throne from Mufasa. You know, so that's what he wants to accomplish, right? So in order to do that, he needs to, he has to be first in line. To be first in line to the throne, he has to somehow get rid of Mufasa. Okay. In order to do that, he needs to get Mufasa away from people who protect him. What would draw Mufasa away so easily? His son. So he draws and encourages Simba away from his father by, you know, exploiting and manipulating his draw for adventure and his arrogance, you know. And he puts Mufasa in a situation where he can be lethally be taken out. And, you know, Scar will have, this will go to the next point, like, what are your villains willing to do? You know, Scar didn't really want to kill Simba, he just wanted him out of the way. You know, and whether that's just plot armor or what, it doesn't matter, because it shows that Scar will, look, leave, don't come back, leave and never return. And that's what he told Simba. So, like, that gives an opportunity to change the trajectory of the status quo of the lion's pride, right? So, essentially, normally, if Mufasa was dead, Simba would take over, right? Next step, Simba's not there, who's in line? Scar, who is the king's brother. It opens up what you're trying to accomplish as your villain. And sometimes, like, you know, as players, you don't see that whole thing. Like, as Simba, all you saw was that your father died. And that it was your fault. You know, he lived with that for years, that it was his fault. And that he was responsible. So, you have to remember what the players are going to perceive as whatever is going on is going to be different than what you perceive, because they're working off half of a puzzle. You know, they got like 10 pieces out of 100. You know, and so with that, like, there's gonna, you know, they're gonna have to try to put things together very slowly, and so you have to think about what puzzle pieces am I laying down. It doesn't have to be a whole section of it, but it needs to be enough where the story can progress. And so you have to think constantly about perceptions. Perceptions really dictate how a person in any walk of life or situation is going to react. So the first part of an adventure, you really want to highlight your player's perception. So like in the first part of a campaign, you are really getting to know them. You know, you're getting to know who this character is, how they're going to react, how they're going to change their minds in various ways. So you, as the DM, can, you know, get comfy with them. Like, really get into their mind and skin and talk to your players about it. Ask questions. This is a trick in mental health that we use called motivational interviewing. So, what I mean by that is you never ever ask yes or no questions. The reason for that is you're going to get a yes or a no, you know. So I'll give an simple example as far as like just an easy question to answer, right? So instead of, hey, did you eat today? You ask the question, hey, I was wondering, what have you eaten today? And they can't say no, you know, yes, you know, the conversation doesn't end there. So you can, instead of asking your players, hey, would this bother your character? No. Yeah. Like, you want to ask them, hey, what is something that someone could do to like really make your character go after them? What is something that your character is really invested in seeing happen? And instead of going like, is there something that your character really wants to see happen? You know, because that's a really open-ended question, like as far as a yes or no. And so like when you're developing your investigation on what player perception is or character perception is, you want to glean as much stuff as possible. And, you know, as with anything, trust is important. Don't use those questions and that interrogation to just repeatedly screw your players over. It's okay to do that a little bit, to just you know, grab a little bit of what would bother them, because, you know, that helps to set up some encounters. But you don't want to overuse it, because then they're going to do the whole, I'm going to insight check everybody who enters the room, and you know, every box is a mimic, and you know what I mean. Like, they're going to think everything's a threat when it's not, and it really shouldn't be. Yeah, the game is meant to be action-packed, but also they're never going to do anything if they're constantly terrified. So, like, you want to get them comfortable to, like, to take risks, because that's where they're really going to shine on who they are. And we kind of mentioned last time what the goal of a good bad guy is, to really make those characters shine. And so when you're developing an understanding for players and characters' perceptions, you want to take those perceptions and help them shine a little bit. So if you're one of your players says, well, my character wants to make as much money as possible. Super shallow reason to go do things, right? Okay. Well, what would they do? You can ask them, what would they do to accomplish that? What's something they'd never do to accomplish that? And so you can use that to expand on that, because your villain may notice, as this person has come into like the periphery of their understanding, oh, there's this person who keeps messing with my plans, right? And every time they do so, they're always, you know, trying to make money. Okay, well, I clearly understand that. What can I do to maybe persuade them to just like not even bother? And you have to think of things as again, perspective. If the guy who you've been trying to fight this whole time walks up to you and says, "Here's $1,000,000," you're not gonna take it unless people are like have a super shallow understanding of what like their character's greed focus is. But it's a matter of also you're gonna have someone else go in representation of that person and never mention it. Just be like, hey, I've noticed you've been going after this person. It's really not profitable to do so. The reason why is, you know, you can say, you may not see the whole picture here, but this person is trying to do this, and you're kind of in the way. There's a lot of money to be made in this change in status quo. And you can give them a rundown of that. You know, what if fake or real or whatever. You can give a rundown of like what that means to them. And it's a way to further the story, to offer a challenge, and even let's see, where is and even, you know, maybe come up a little bit of conflict in the party. Like, you know, people can be like, you know, dude, like, I don't really appreciate that you you want to make sure this is like something that you can do inter-party, not inter like people. I guess you don't want to have people fighting over this in real life. Make sure you're under the same understanding that everybody is, you know, invested in the same way. You know, that there's going to be character flaws, and so that's a good way to introduce conflict in a non-combat way, especially if they're that invested in money. It's a very physical way to disrupt their inter-party relationships, is to get them to see a wedge between them and their most important goal. Their most important goal is maybe a person. You know, you can get some leverage on that person from the bad guy. You know, whether it's physical, holding them hostage, or maybe messing up their job, or make it to where they feel like they're not safe by causing an accident. Whatever it may be. So again, going back to the macro, when you start from micro, I truly feel that when you start from the small first, you're building off a shallow point of entry. Like if you're building from the smallest point onward, I feel with my style that it makes the story so much smaller. When you can create like a community of ideas instead of going for a household of ideas and challenges for the players, you start from, you know, a bedroom, and it's just, you can really like run out of steam fast if the players dismantle that, and I can promise you they will. So like, and sure, you can wing it, and that's fine. Some people run really good off chaos, but at the same time though, there's going to be one day that it doesn't, and they're going to notice. They're going to notice that it's shallow. And I'm not saying that your way is bad. I'm saying that, I guess, you want to make sure that when they wade into the waters that they know they can swim. You know what I mean? Like, they want to dive in deep and not know what's under their feet. because that's scary, that's interesting. But if they go in knowing it's a kiddie pool, if they're just there to make, to take a quick dip, that's one thing. But if you're, wanting to dive in deep and have a good role-playing experience, definitely, I would say, invest in really starting from that macro scale stuff and working down. As per all my videos, I want to stress that, the best way you're going to get, I guess, the most out of something is if you get what you put into something. If you put a lot of time and effort and thought into the things that you do, you're going to get a lot out of it from the players. Especially if you have a good amount of trust and rapport with your players. If you have trust and rapport with your players, you really can't go wrong on this sort of thing. If they see you putting a lot of effort into looking into who their characters are by asking those questions via the motivational interviewing skills that I taught you right now, asking open-ended questions. If they say something, ask for clarification. If they say, yeah, my character really wants to look into how to develop, say they're an artificer, they really want to learn how to develop technology for portals, right? Without having to cast massive spells. You can go, okay, that's really cool. You want to figure out how to get around the advanced arcane transportation problem, right? And then they can say, well, kind of. I don't necessarily want to make it about transportation. I wanted to make it about getting around barriers because I want to take down the Thieves Guild. Oh, okay. Well, why do you want to take down the Thieves Guild? You see what I'm doing there? I'm asking questions where they have to elaborate. You ask questions so that way the conversation can continue. It's a technique that is used to get information that, like, maybe somebody wants to keep it like private, or even like maybe they haven't quite thought of it yet. But then they could even say, you know what, I'm not sure. I just thought it was cool. Let me get back to you. I'll think about that, You don't have to have information now. Like, you can get it later. And so, those open-ended questions, that motivational interviewing, is a very valuable skill in life that I've learned from my job working in mental health. And it's translated very well to my personal life. It really works well for, if you're trying to help somebody with a moral dilemma, or I don't really like to give advice. I like to just kind of like get their take on stuff and ask them what they really think, and they kind of work it out for themselves. Same thing with characters. They kind of work things out for themselves if you ask the right questions. It's kind of the beauty of it, is a lot of people just have the answers in there already. But if you tell someone what to do, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. Like, I'm sure many people have had that happen. Oh, I did it again, my knees. I'm sure a lot of people have had that happen in real life where, they come to you and ask you for help. They ask you for advice, and you give your thoughts, and then they just kind of do what they were going to do anyway. That's because they weren't necessarily asking so that way you could tell them what they should do with their life. They're asking so they can mull things over. And so in mental health, we have this thing called like a contemplation stage. Like, are they thinking about making a change? Why? Are they there yet? They could be in a preemptive stage. Like, well, they're not quite ready to make any changes. They're not like really looking for anything, but they're asking questions. you know, and so if they're not into that, they're not in the you know, contemplative stage, and you pressing them for it, all that's going to do is piss them off, or they're going to ignore you because they're not ready. So you have to like investigate with those skills, those motivational interviewing skills, to go, okay, is this something you actually want to do, or, you know, am I asking something that's not really your speed? You know, it doesn't hurt to ask questions, and if they're like, why are you asking all these questions? You can simply say, oh, I'm just trying to understand kind of like where you're at. I want to make sure I get this right. And it shows that you are investing in them. You're asking the right questions, and they can, like I said, trust and rapport is very important as a DM. Without it, you really can't do any of the most amazing things that you can do if they don't trust you. Same as a player. The DM doesn't trust you, I can promise you they're not going to let you get away with a lot of the stuff. And that in order to trust you, they have to know that you understand where they're coming from. I talked to my friend Tim about this, about having proper boundaries within your campaign, because he is learning how to DM, and I have a lot of faith in the guy. He's a really good player, so with the right guidance, he's probably going to be a great DM. It's about learning what you are saying no to and why. That's really important as a player or a DM. You can say, no, I don't want to do that, or no, I don't feel that's fair. Ask yourself why. You know, sometimes we want to do what we want to do, and then we don't really know what why beyond that. You know, so compromise is important. One thing I see a lot that I kind of get frustrated with is a lot of people play their characters with zero compromise, which I think is, I'll be honest, kind of bullshit. Because, yeah, there are people in real life who don't compromise, but they're kind of rare. If they are, no one really wants to be around them. So you can't really expect anybody to work with you if that's the way it is, especially like with bad guys. In order to get what they want, there's a transaction, like whether it's monetary or favors or confidences. There's a transactional thing, and sometimes they do things they don't necessarily want to do, whether it's doing good things or doing things they wouldn't normally do. Some thieves will get involved with even darker powers because they want to get that exchange in power coupon, so to speak. Or maybe it was all money. Or, you know, a bad guy does good things for 2 years to get into the good graces of whatever power structure is there. Because, like I said before, you want to know what their end goal is, why they're doing what they're doing, why they spend their time carrying out the tasks that they have set out to do. So, if it means serving on a crime task force, they're going to do that because it gets them what they want. That's why I think a lot of times when people are like, evil characters can't work with people, again, that's bull. They do all the time, and until they decide that it's not within their interest to do so. It's not that they're like, oh God, this is something good and nice, I can't do that, I'm evil. They're not a Saturday morning cartoon villain. They're a person who thinks, I want to do these things. You know, doing something good in the world has its place. It has its time and place. And if your character can't understand that, like, they're going to get stuck real fast, and they're going to stay there. you know, they're never going to get anything done. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Like, always think about, you know, the perception of that character, from others' perspectives. I know this sounds like a lot, but, you know, starting big and going small is where it's going to make your life easier. Because you've already made what comes next. You just got to work backwards. You know? It's like saying, I want to make spaghetti. Okay, I want to make spaghetti. What ingredients do I need for that? How do I get them? Where do I go? What pots and pans do I need? Do I need a table saw? You know? No, I don't need a table saw. Why am I doing that? I'm making spaghetti. You know, it's... Yeah, I'm just talking shit at this point, I know. But, like, I'm just saying, like, it's... you have to decide what you want to do before you can start carrying out the task. And that's where I think it's just taking a little bit of time a week to connect those dots. So first you figure out what the image is going to be, you know, and then you work toward that image of what you want to see portrayed. And I wouldn't get so concrete about it where you don't allow your players to stretch their legs. You want to kind of make a general outline, like a general area, and work from there. You know, get some bullet points down of what they're gonna see out there. Like if you're like, man, I hope they sure find this burning barn, and they walk right around it, you're gonna be like, damn, they totally walked past my plot point. Well, you can either, you know, try to shove them that direction, or you can remember and go back up to the end goal of what your bad guy was trying to accomplish. What did burning down that barn try to accomplish? And you can go, okay, well, they were trying to burn that barn to intimidate the local farmers into doing what I say. Okay. Well, nobody helped them. No one came to their aid, and now all of a sudden, this mysterious figure is asking the people at the farm to allow them to operate out of their barn, or operate off of their farm. They say, yeah. Now that becomes their one of their layers, or maybe like an outpost or something. It writes itself, really, in my opinion, if you do it like that. And yeah, sometimes you can just make something small off the fly because you need a little extra content for when they're traveling around. That's wonderful. But just, you know, just try to remember what you're trying to accomplish. You know, you can give them a little bit of that small content to maybe bolster or support the other big thing, by not even being involved. Like you could say a bunch of harpies are also causing problems for that farm as well, and those harpies are putting pressure on the farmers to have some sort of allies, because obviously, like, the local town or heroes didn't come to save them. So this villain, this mysterious figure who is pressuring them, is obviously going to look after their own interests, and, you know, aren't going to let their farm get attacked by harpies. It's a level of protection, whether you, like, perfectly like it or not, you know. And that's kind of where working backwards comes into play. But it's an interesting beast, you know, campaign design. It's an interesting way to just sit there and think about how things work. Let's clean this here wall. Walls, what are they good for? Pretty much some things. I don't know. Walking to the side. Walking to the side. Gets things done really fast and efficiently. Washing to the side. Cleaning up a wall. Things are in the way. Go the fuck away. There we go. Well, I hope this has been a little bit illuminating. I tried to go over kind of the mindset of why I'm preparing in that way. I felt that a story like Lion King really gives the idea of like what you're trying to do as a plot, moving it forward. Especially as Scar being the villain, you know what he's trying to accomplish. He never shuts up about it. So, you know, it's just a matter of motivating your villain once they have their desired outcome. And you just work up to that point. You know every step that he or she or they would like to accomplish, and then you simply take those steps to get there. Like, I'm only halfway done with this, and maybe, just maybe, one day we'll be done. But it's just like D&D, you always keep building upon it. You always find a new detail to look at. And, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, it's just, like, constant creativity. And, as I always say, like, I feel like so many people are way more creative and thoughtful than they think they are, because they haven't got to really stretch your muscles, your intellectual muscles on that idea. And, it's an amazing thing to sit there and, like, you know, you can come up with a character, and, you know, I know some people are, they come up with beautiful characters, and then when it comes to DMing, they're just terrified because they've been told how hard it is, and it's really not all that different. You're just doing it for every aspect of the world, which is a lot, but also you don't have to do it all at once. Just come up with those goals, those end results that your story wishes to see happen. And then I truly believe if you work toward it, you guys can do it. And anybody who is developing their story, I would love to hear about, if I'm not playing in your campaign, what you're trying to accomplish, and like how the stuff I went over could help. Or if it doesn't work, just because like things I said were what I believe does not mean I don't want to hear how it may not work. So if you have an idea of how to do things differently, I would love to hear that as well. So leave it in the comments if you would like. If you have any questions about DMing or would like to see me talk about in the future, hit me up with a comment. I hope everybody has been having fun with our videos, because we sure have. It's been a wonderful thing to do, to sit down and just enjoy a night and just play a game, talk about a hobby, run around scared from, space mutants who are undead, whatever it is, running through a dungeon, going through space and time, cleaning a dirty wall. It's been fun. So I just want to say to all of you who are watching, I truly appreciate that you've taken the time out of your very busy week to sit here with us, just enjoying a game together. So as always, thank you so much for coming. I hope you get to do something that you really enjoy this week, and I'll see you guys next time here on Dice Not Included. Bye bye.